So, hello everyone, welcome from wherever you're watching in the world. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and we're back with some racing here in URL, back in the Asia Pacific division for round number 4 of this second season. And we're here at Circuit Paul Ricard in France. Right now 14 drivers, should be one joining pretty soon as well, so a little bit of a more packed grid than the last 2 weeks, but yeah, France of course, quite a different circuit from last week where we were in Melbourne, Australia. It's a circuit with a little bit more runoff compared to the semi-street circuit at Albert Park. A lot of long straights here, a lot of flowing corners, high speed, and of course also a lot of tire wear. So this qualifying session will certainly be interesting to see how the drivers decide their strategy for the race. Of course we don't know yet if it will be a dry or a wet race, but the drivers will, and they'll maybe adjust their strategy accordingly. Of course softs go off very quickly around here, so if you qualify in the top 10 on those Red Bull tires, then a one stop will be tricky from softs to hards. It is possible, but punctures are a possibility near the end of the race. So P11 with the first car on free tire choice of course will be a very good position going into the race, as we now see the first car starting their first runs. A bit overcast, not sure if there will be some rain later on in this session. If so, it's of course very important to get a lap early in. As we see Joseph now first car on a push lap, of course purple in the first sector as you would expect, being the first car out on track. So in terms of the championship, Eurocram's win last race in Australia puts him top of the leaderboard, 2 wins from 3, and he is in a good position here. Plebs makes a return as well, of course absent last week, didn't help his championship run. Joseph also present once again. And taking a quick look behind Cramp in the standings, of course Plebs won one race in Baku, second round. As Joseph now comes round the final corner and will record the first lap time of the session in a 1:27.2, pretty competitive lap time already, a low 1:27. Joseph is in the time trials on this track, he is very competitive, so he is one of the favorites for pole. As we'll now see, I think Cobalt be the next to cross the line, as BJ has slotted into second, 1:29.9. So Plebs, despite his non-start last week, still in second place in the championship, 20 points behind Cramp. Then BP in the Haas, he is absent today, so he'll be taking a bit of a blow in his championship fight. Joseph is in third on 36 points, so 27 points behind Eurocramp. Then come the McLaren duo of Diano and Toddy. Diano, after some late steward decisions, got his first Euro podium last week, P3, after his 5-second penalty was removed. So a first for him, hoping he can continue his momentum this weekend. As I think Mets, of course we also have a couple of new drivers. I think we have Cobalt Redemption, Humble Hippo, those two are reserves today. Cobalt has already made an appearance this season, I think it was at Baku, not sure. So James Cruz still in the garage at the moment, and the Mercedes of Metz, 2 new drivers today. I think they're both will be full-time, with some people leaving, so they'll be hoping to impress on their debut here in URL. As we have Weirdo now purple through the second sector. This third sector really tricky, as we see the Haas driver locking up. Very fast flowing corners, one leading into the other, and another lockup. And another one going into the last corner as well. As he now runs towards the line. And this probably will be a P2, and it is a 1:28.7, still 1.5 seconds behind our current pole sitter Joseph. So sky is clearing up a bit, so I don't think we'll be seeing any rain in this qualifying session. So all the cars that haven't set a lap time so far are, I think, all on their outlap right now, except for Plevs and James. As we'll follow Ural Cramp, our championship leader, around for a lap of circuit for the car. Going into turn 1, braking down to 5th gear, even 4th gear for him on this first run. Tricky to keep the car straight going through turn 2, then into turn 3, quick corner, leaves a bit more space in the apex than you can. Then quickly going into this pretty slow corner at the end of the first sector, 21.9 is competitive, then flat out here onto the longest straight of the circuit, going towards the chicane, braking at around 70 meters, down to 4th and then down to 3rd for the second part. Short shifting on the exit to keep traction, and up towards the second sector line. It's a 49.2. That's 3/10 down on Weirdo at the moment, so not a run that will threaten the time set by Joseph. Tricky long right-hander here, followed by an even trickier left-hander down to 3rd. Don't hit the curve on the inside, keep it straight on the exit. And then into the last 2 corners on the track, down to 3rd here, up to 4th, and then down to 2nd again. Even 1st for Cramp to get the rotation, open the DRS and up to the line. And it will be a 1:21.3. A bit quicker in the 3rd sector than Weirdo, and that puts him 2nd overall for now. As we have Diano also on a push lap right now. Still over 8 minutes to go, as the track will get quicker and quicker as Carson goes into 4th. And Diano puts in a good lap time, goes just 3 thousandths in front of Weirdo and into P3 at the moment. As there are some yellow flags ahead, but I think that's just for a slow car. Interestingly, Plebs, the only car at the moment on the medium tires on his outlap right now. Of course, with only 14 runners, there is a bit of a higher chance to qualify in the top 10 even on medium tires, so might not be a worse or a bad strategy at all for Plebs, as there is quite some traffic here in the 3rd sector as Joseph improves on his 27.2, goes 2/10 quicker and puts in a 27 flat, 1.3 seconds now ahead of the man in 2nd place, as Plebs has to get out of the way for the Alfa Romeo of RL9. bit unfortunate, just as he was about to start his lap, as our online doesn't improve in the final sector, stays 6th fastest for now. So Plebs not the best of starts to his lap, but let's see what he can do in this first sector. Of course, tricky here in France to keep the car within the track limits. Easy invalidation here, as he now comes towards the end of the final sector of 22.4. That's some 5/10 slower than, for example, Cramp did. Of course, mediums don't have as much grip as the softs. As he now goes towards the chicane in the middle of the long straight. Already down to 3rd before the second part. And he backs off. Maybe a bit too much traffic from the Alfa Romeo in front, who I think decided to go for another run, but he is invalidated. So I don't think Plebs will be too happy with the Alfa Romeo in front. As we have Mats on what it seems like his first valid lap at the moment, in case he can keep it that way through the last couple of corners, as one of the racing points moves out of the way into the final corner, keeps it tidy on the exit, and now accelerates towards the start-finish straight. Won't be anywhere near pole, but at least it's a lap time on the boards, and he goes in between the two Alpha Tauris in P9. Humble Hippo, 4/10 up through the first two sectors. That would put him back into the top 10. But he can't improve in the final sector. As Plebs has gone back into the pits. As we have Weirdo here. I was gonna say about to start his second flying lap, but he's already backed off. Not happy with how probably his first two turns went. So right now I think most of the people preparing for their final runs. Not many cars out on track at the moment. Still two cars yet to set a lap time with Plebs and James. Plebs seemingly having switched to the soft compound now. Of course, as I said before, P11 will be a very favorable position to start the race in. Okay, you can easily pull off a one-stop from there, with starting on either the mediums or the hards and then switching to the other compound midway through the race. For the people in the top 10, will be either a very stretched out one-stop from softs to hards or an aggressive two-stop. People like Joseph and Cramp, who have a bit of pace over the rest of the field, might try the two-stop just to prevent any punctures later on in the race. And of course, safety cars will play a big role in that as well, the timing of them when they come out. So a lot of people on their outlaps right now, as I said, preparing for their final runs. Two McLarens running close together with Diano just in front of Toddy. Let's see what they can do. Of course, not having had the best of qualifying sessions so far this season. Diano in P4 at the moment, not looking too bad. Let's see if he can improve on his lap time. Keeps it valid, although cutting a large part of the track, but there in turn 2 you can get away with crossing the white line, so taking a lot of risk on this second flying lap, just 100 slower than his previous best. Couldn't quite catch the first sector time of Toddy. He is maybe a bit too far behind to get a slipstream from his teammate, but we'll see if it benefits him. As Diano now comes up towards the second sector. Let's see if he has improved through that just a little bit up, 3/100ths up. As Toddy improves by 5/10ths on his personal best, of course. 32.4, not anywhere near as competitive as he would have wanted to. So he'll need a bit of more improvement through this final sector. Ooh, as he has a bit of a twitch of the rear coming out of that right-hander. Turn 11. As we see, that hammer has joined just in time. As Diano comes up towards the line and improves by 6/100ths, but stays in P4 as Toddy slots into 7th with a 129.4. And that will probably be the McLaren boys done for the day, at least in terms of qualifying, as there won't be enough time to get back to the pits. So Diano won't be improving on 4th, but with the gap behind to the other cars, I think he might be pretty safe. Cramp invalidated on his fast lap, so now just backing off. Of course, having to do a second lap on these softs won't help, especially for the race, as you'll have to start the race on those slightly more worn soft tires. But he will give it another go. 1.3 seconds to find to Joseph. Let's see if our championship leader can manage to get anywhere near that time set by the Racing Point driver. Neat and tidy through 1 and 2. Taking a bit more curb now in turn 3. Hitting the apex here. 2/10 up through the first sector. As the Alfa Romeo moves out of the way. As Carson nicks P4 from Diano. He will stay on board with URL Cramp into the chicane now, keeping it within the track limits. Let's see if he's still up by those 2/10. And he has even found another 4/10 up. Of course, defending that second place as well from Weirdo, who is on a lap as well right now. Just starting his lap. As qualifying is over, Joseph won't be improving. He stayed in the pits, confident enough that his 127.0 will be enough for pole position. Scram now comes up towards the line. Won't be pole, but it will be an improvement by over 5/10, 127.7. As Weirdo has got some traffic ahead. Just a couple of hundreds down on his personal best. As we will see Plebs now going to 9th on the medium tires. So he still decided to go with the harder of the two compounds and has made it into the top 10. So of course that gains him a couple of positions compared to the P13 he was in. And Weirdo aborts his lap as he had invalidated it. So I think that's qualifying complete after Metz has crossed the line to finish his lap. And he snatches that P9 from Plevs. Good lap from the Mercedes driver at the end, 29.2. And he puts himself into 9th. Into the top 10 in his first qualifying session here in URL. So that's your grid for the race. Joseph puts it on pole dominantly with a 127.7, 7/10 ahead of URL Cramp in second place. Weirdo keeps P3 just ahead of Carson. And Diano and RL9 on the third row with Toddy and Humble Hippo P7 and P8. Running out the top 10 is Metz and Plevs, the only one in the top 10 that will start on the medium tires. And then from 11th onwards we have Cobalt, PJ, Jungelman and James Cruz not setting a lap time. So that's your final qualifying order. Let's see if Joseph can keep this dominance going in the race, or if Cramp will be able to close the gap a bit in the race and take the fight to the Racing Point driver. As we will now see what the weather will be like, of course, important. And it is raining. It is raining, so Plef's choice to go on the medium seems a bit odd then, to sacrifice a better grid position to start on a better compound, while the race start will be probably, by the looks of it, on intermediate. So a bit of a strange choice from the Red Bull driver. So he'll be starting in P10 on the same tires as everyone else. So yeah, I'm interested to see if this weather will stay throughout the entire race. As indeed all cars on intermediates. So all that strategy talk we had earlier, we can throw that out of the window. All cars neutralized, all strategies neutralized, starting on the wet compound of tires. Oh, as we see Carson going off. Of course, we don't know if drivers have picked a wet setup or not for this race, because they knew prior to qualifying that it was gonna rain, at least at the start of this race. So it's interesting to see if drivers have compromised their qualifying to get a better race. As Ned Hammer has joined, and although he is a Racing Point driver, one of the reserves, Humble Hippo, by accident took his seat, so he is racing in the Ferrari colors for now, but he'll be racing or scoring points for both himself and the constructors as if he is racing for Racing Point. But yeah, 15 drivers on the grid. Wet start, will be interesting to see if everyone can keep it clean. And here predicted pit stop strategies say that it will rain throughout the entire race, but of course we don't know if that's really the case, as we see another Williams going off of James. So Williams finding it hard to keep their cars on track at the moment in these slippery conditions. As the cars now line up on the grid, ready for round number 4 here in URL, the APAC division. Joseph on pole, James leader Cramp in second place, then it's Weirdo and Carson, Diano and RL9 Toddy, Humble Hippo, Mets and Plex running out the top 10, as now all cars are lined up and ready to go. As 3, 4, 5 lights are on, they're out and away we go. And it's a good start from Cramp already alongside and in front of Joseph, as there's a big crash at the back involving both AlphaTauris, and we already have a safety car with BJ out of the race. That was a big impact. And Humble Hippo seemingly involved in that as well, as he has already dropped 6 places from after starting P8 on the grid, losing his front wing. But Cramp with a good start, now in front of Joseph, behind the top 7, all maintaining positions, with Plebs making a good start from 10th on the grid up into 8th. Mets stays in 9th, Zuluman in P10. Looking at the cars at the back of the grid, of course they might have been collected by BJ or involved in another way in the accident, but it doesn't seem like anyone apart from Humble Hippo has front wing damage. So the race neutralized on the first lap. Won't be any early pit stops as it's still far too wet for any dry tires. Looking at the clouds, I don't think it will be clearing up anytime soon either, so yeah, safety car now weighing in sector 1 to pick up our leader. As we see quite some cars into the pits actually. Humble Hippo, of course, as expected, but also James. I didn't see any damage on his front wing, might have picked some damage up. Let's see if that's the case. Doesn't seem like it for the Williams. Yeah, just a new set of intermediates going on to that Williams, as Humble Hippo has gotten a new front wing. In the meantime, Toddy has picked up a penalty, a 5-second time penalty, probably for a collision under the safety car. So that will be unfortunate for him, as I don't think if the race stays, even if the race stays wet all the way, I think all drivers will have to make a pit stop. Of course, it's not mandatory in these wet conditions, but I don't think these intermediates will last the whole 27 laps. So already picking up a 5-second time penalty so early in the race will mean he'll have to serve it at his first pit stop, which won't do him any good, of course, but it is what it is. As I think safety car will be out for one more lap after this, as James and Humble just still have to catch up back to the pack. So yeah, good start from Cramp. Already overtaking Joseph at the start. Behind that, it seemed to be quite calm in the midfield, and then of course big chaos at the back, with both AlphaTauris spinning. Zungelman seemingly escaping without any damage and still running in the top 10, but it didn't go as well for his teammate, who is out of this race. As we see James once again into the pits, as well as Matt Hammer. Don't know what for, but just getting some fresh intermediates onto their cars. Seems a bit odd, but they for sure will have their reasons. Drivers already complaining about the safety car going too slow. At least Codemasters got that part of the F1 game right in terms of realism. But yeah, especially with those wet conditions, it's very hard to keep any temperature in the tires under safety car conditions. So normally it's quite the opposite here at France, with tires overheating, especially through the third sector. But in the wet with the safety car, will be very hard to maintain any temperature, so that will be interesting as well at the restart. I think safety car will be in at the end of this lap, as the entire pack has got back up, and indeed that's the case. Lights are out on the Mercedes driven by Bernd Meinlander, so Cramp now gets to dictate the pace. Still a quite some way to go. Early call to let Cramp control the field. Still some corners to go, but yeah, of course they can't overtake before safety car line 1. Cramp can maintain the pace as long as he wants up until the start-finish straight. Everyone will try to get as much temperature into their tires as possible. And I think Cramp has already bolted. Yeah, yes. And he has already gotten quite a big gap on Joseph as we are racing once again. And there's a yellow flag still. Don't know what for. Seems like there's a yellow flag in every sector. I think that's a bit of a game bug, but we should be back on the green flag racing again. And yellow flags have gone. So Cramp with an excellent safety car restart caught Joseph absolutely napping, and Weirdo now on the back of the racing point. Carson maintaining position as well. Doesn't seem like anyone has gained any positions of this safety car restart. So there's also already quite a big gap between Metz and Dungelman, with Cobalt Humble and Ned Hammer lining up behind the AlphaTauri. Ned Hammer is looking for an opportunity to overtake. Of course, no DRS assistance in these wet conditions as Zoomerman goes off the track at the exit of the chicane. Losing some more time as Ned Hammer has gotten an excellent exit and is past Humble. Didn't have to do it on the braking as Metz runs very wide there, taking out one of the brake marker boards. As we have side-by-side action with Plebs and Toddy, and Plebs loving these conditions, already up to 7th from 10th on the grid. Now can try to close the gap to RL9 in P6. Carson already pulling out quite a gap as well to Diano, as Cramp has got a 1.4 second lead over Joseph. So of course it's already quite hard to follow these cars in normal circumstances, but with these wet conditions, the spray coming off the car in front, it will be tricky to try and stay close and attempt an overtake, as Cobalt Redemption gets the first 3-second time penalty because of track limit warnings of the race. Yeah, seemingly Toddy is struggling a little bit. Already 1.7 seconds behind. Oh, as we have a spin from Humble Hippo, that is, into the wall and losing his front wing. And after his lap 1 damage, he picks up some more damage and is relegated down to last place on the grid in the field, and will have to box for a new wing. Of course, with these big runoff areas there won't be a need of a safety car if driver puts it in the wall, as that's an interesting line there, as he picks up a 10-second time penalty for corner cutting. Probably wasn't intending to go straight on, but the lack of downforce made him take that route. But yeah, unfortunate for him, as he'll be away down the field after making his pit stop. Cramp a 42.4, still 1.4, 1.5 seconds ahead of Joseph, who is now got a bit of a gap to Weirdo in P3. Carson trying to get on the back of Weirdo, as he has already got a 3.2 second gap to Diano. And Plebs has caught up to the back of RL9 in Alfa Romeo as they get very close through turn 4. Nice camera shot here, as Plebs tries to find a way past the Alfa Romeo. As he gets some slipstream and pulls out of it. Ooh, goes a bit deep into the corner. Can RL9 fight back on the exit? Does seem like it. He gets a better run out of the chicane, but Plebs just about maintains his track position, and the Rebel driver up into 6th place, as we see Diano get a bit wavered there on the exit of the normally flat out turn 10. But in these conditions it's a bit trickier flat out, as we have James going around the outside of Zungelman, but running a bit wide in the middle part of turn 11, but stays ahead of the AlphaTauri driver. Battle for P12. As the gap has gone down a bit, and Joseph now puts in the fastest lap of the race. Joseph finding his feet a bit more now, within a second, and already pulling out a 2-second lead on the man in P3. As we have yellow flag in sector 3, I think that's Humble Hippo again. Doesn't look like any front wing damage now, but another spin for the reserve driver today. As Pledge is also already caught up to the back of Diano, and now makes the move at exactly the same place as he did on RL9 lap earlier, and he is up into 5th. Great pace from the Red Bull man as he is cutting his way through the field. Diano tries to hang on a bit, but runs wide on the exit of turn 10 and has to now fully concede the position. Now Pledge has to catch up quite a bit of a gap to Carson in P4, 5.3 seconds. So yeah, behind, gap stabilizing a bit. Ned Hammer in P10 at the moment, trying to close in on the Mercedes of Metz. As it seems like Pledge absolutely loves these conditions. Let's see what he can do in clean air, what he can do in terms of pace compared to the leaders. And seeing this, it's such a shame that he decided to go onto the mediums during qualifying while the race start was wet. If he just put in a better lap on the softs, started a bit higher up the field, he might have been right in the mix with Cramp and Joseph at the very front of the field. Now he just has to fight his way towards it, already gaining 4/10 through the first sector on Carson alone. very good pace by the Red Bull driver. As Cramp still maintaining P1. Looking at the ERS reserves, they're both on about 60% both. Joseph seemingly having a little bit more. As Carson has pushed quite hard to stick with the Weirdo down to his last 20% of ERS, while the Haas driver has over 70. So despite not looking too quick, is quite comfortably in third, I think. Probably aware that he doesn't have the outright pace to compete with the front two at the moment. So just consolidating his P3, maintaining the gap to Carson, as Plebs has almost gained 1 second on this last lap. As he does put in the fastest lap of the race of 42.1, 2 points quicker than Joseph, his fastest lap. So as I said, he does have a lot of pace. Just the fact that he had to start in P10 hampered his chances of fighting at the very front of the field. Joseph gaining a couple of tenths through the first sector on Cramp. Now 6 tenths the gap. As they are very equally matched, and Joseph closes up through the first part of the chicane, but Cramp gets a better exit and pulls out the gap to 8 tenths again. So it's a bit of a yo-yo effect, as we have a move for P9. Ned Hammer getting past Mets. A bit wide on the exit, but he should be okay, as we have Cobalt and James also fighting, as Toddy has spun on the exit, losing positions to the fighting Ned Hammer and Mets, and now has to watch out for the Renault and Williams behind as well. Not the best of races for Toddy so far, struggling in these conditions, as he's now down to 10th. As James tries to have a look on the inside of Cobalt, has to back out at the very last moment as the Renault driver commits to the corner. As Toddy dives into the pits. Of course, he will have to serve the 5-second penalty he got under the safety car. As Joseph now picks up a time penalty, first of the race, that will hurt his chances a bit, if Cramp can keep it clean, of course, and not pick up any penalties. So Toddy back out of his pit box, now having served at 5 seconds, but he is down to 13th place, just in front of Humble Hippo, who is now in the third sector. So yeah, Joseph picking up a penalty that won't help him, as Plevs is now slowly catching Carson at the rate he was doing a couple of laps ago. Gap now 3.3. As Weirdo has started to use a bit more of his ERS as well, growing the gap to Carson to over 1 second. As we have James, I think, yeah, James spun on the exit of turn 10, I think, and he's down to P12 now, after fighting with Cobalt, now being overtaken by Jungleman after that spin. Of course, having a wet race as your first race here is of course not ideal, but you'll just have to try and keep focused, and of course race only 11 laps old, still plenty of things that can happen. It will be interesting to see what pace Toddy can put out on those new intermediates. As Jungelman picks up another 3-second time penalty. As Humble Hippo still has a 10-second penalty for corner cutting. Apparently he didn't serve that in the pits. I thought that was possible, but yeah, running in last place, 25 seconds behind the next car. It's not the best of days for Humble Hippo. As it will be crucial for Joseph's race now. If he thinks he has more pace than the Ferrari in front, he'll have to overtake him with those 3 seconds that will be added on to his race time at the end. So, of course, we're coming up to the halfway stage. If race would be wet all the way, I think we'll might see some pit stops very soon. If not, they'll either try to make it to the end, or there will be some dry weather towards the latter stage of this race, and the drivers will try to stretch their intermediates so that they don't have to make another pit stop for the wet tires and just can go straight from the inters towards the dry tires. But it doesn't really look like it's clearing up, as Toddy, yeah, another mistake at the same place James did, as Cobalt now makes his pit stop. Should still stay or stay in 12th. He'll come out in 12th, with James now catching up back to the AlphaTauri of Jungelman after his spin. Not really anything going on in terms of battles at the moment. Maybe this lap, as James does seem to have a bit more pace than Jungelman. There's quite some train forming behind Diano, already 12 seconds behind Plebs, who's now really closed the gap to Carson to a point where you can visually see the Williams driver, and he's already got a 12-second lead on Diano, who will dive into the pits as Plebs puts in another fastest lap of the race. So despite his tires being 12 laps old, still got a lot of pace in the tank. And same can be said for Diano, who struggled towards the end of his stint and now puts on fresh intermediates. Will probably come out still in front of James, who has gotten past Jungelman, who missed the overtake, but Williams is back past the AlphaTauri. So with that pit stop from Diano, I think we'll probably see some more drivers coming into the pit soon, as they'll try to defend the undercut from the McLaren driver, as RL9 picks up his first time penalty. Gap now starting to grow a bit again between Cramp and Joseph, nearing 9/10 to a second right now, as these tires come towards the end of their life. And Cram does box and is straight followed by Joseph. Weirdo also in, and Carson also into the top 4, all boxing. Plef stays out for one more lap. Try to utilize the clean air in front of him now to perform an overcut. Will be interesting to see if he is able to pull that off. And the pit stop, it doesn't seem like anyone has been jumped. No, top 4 stays in exactly the same order as they were, as Ned Hammer will stay out. and comes out right in the middle of this battle, but crucially Cramp is ahead of Nethammer while the rest of the pack is behind him. So Cramp did already gain some time on Joseph in the pits, and now with Nethammer between them, it will definitely hamper Joseph's race a bit, having to overtake the Ferrari, which technically isn't a Ferrari, as Nethammer is a Racing Point driver. So under normal circumstances these two would have been teammates, but they're driving in different cars right now. But it doesn't seem like there's any sign of Nethammer moving out of the way for Joseph, and Cramp is using this opportunity to pull out a lead, as he's already 2.2 seconds in front of Joseph. Mets also stayed out, I just spotted, and he is in front of Weirdo and Carson. So Weirdo already having lost touch a bit with the top two, as Joseph now gets past Nethammer. Plebs does box this lap, so as Nethammer and Mets also dive into the pits. So Plebs' strategy to stay out might have gained him some time, as these cars have been held up a bit, but he is still behind them. Plebs are still in 5th place. He does have 1 lap fresher tires. So let's see if he can now properly catch up to the fight for the last podium position. As Carson is also closing up on Weirdo right now. So Cramp used the traffic to pull out a 2.5 second lead now to Joseph, and with that 3 second penalty it's technically a 5.5 second lead. So Joseph will have to push very hard in this second stint to have any chance of taking the win away, as Carson is really closing up to Weirdo at the moment. Nethammer and Mets, after their pit stops, fell down to 8th and 9th. Nethammer still in a good position, only a couple of seconds behind RL9 and Diano. So some good points are still up on offer for both these drivers, who have stretched out their first stint a little to get a bit of an advantage in the second one with slightly fresher tires. James now in P10, but he is on 12 lap old intermediate, so I think he'll still have to make a pit stop, as Cramp logically puts in the fastest lap of the race, and that's immediately beaten by Joseph, 140.8. So the pace going up a bit after the 142s in the first stint. We're now into the 140s, so Joseph does have the pace, but now he has to 1, close the gap, and 2, overtake Cramp, and then pull out a 3 second gap as well, as Plebs is now within 1 second of Carson as well, as he spins. Oh, that's the commentator's curse right there. Just as he was really closing in on the battle for 3rd, he makes a mistake on the exit of turn 7 or turn 6, I don't know, I think 6. Yeah, and loses quite some time to the 2 cars in front. Luckily for him, he's still in P5. Now he just has to cool down the tires and keep his head cool and try again. Yeah, lost some 10 seconds as Humble Hippo has decided he's had enough and retires in the pits. So that releases the pressure from Carson behind him, and now he can fully focus on trying to overtake Weirdo. So what we thought was going to be a 3-car fight now stays a 2-car fight. There you go, flags in sector 3, that's for the retired car of Humble Hippo. Gap stays 2 seconds at the front, so pace very similar between Cramp and Joseph. 11 laps still to go. As Zungelman and Toddy are fighting over 12th place. As James does make his second pit stop of the race, no, third actually, he made 2 during the safety car. As Metz picks up a 3-second time penalty as well. So let's see, he should still come out in front of Toddy. And he does in P11. Now 11 seconds behind Cobalt in P10, but still without penalties. So and with Cobalt having 9 seconds worth of penalties, James now being on fresher intermediates, he still has a chance to get the gap down enough to score some points on his debut. As Joseph has once again cut off a little of that 2 seconds, now down the gap down to 1.5. As we missed the overtake, but Ned Hammer is now in P7, he's overtaken RL9 and now is right on the back of Diano. As we have a yellow flag and Zungelman has retired, crashed on the exit of turn 10. We already saw quite some cars going off and we have a full course safety car with 9 laps to go. And Cobalt decides to go into the pits, picks up a 5-second time penalty for speeding. Will be interesting to see if any other drivers decide to make a stop. Yeah, Toddy, of course, being on the oldest tires in the entire field and already in last place, so that makes sense for him to make that pit stop. But with all the other drivers just having pit a couple of laps before, I don't think many drivers will box. So good news for drivers like Plevs and Joseph, who now get the disadvantage ahead to the cars ahead reduced. So it will be interesting to see if Plevs can now really move forward with the pace he showed. Being after the safety car will bunch up the field, he'll be right behind Carson. Will we see anyone dive into the pits? I don't think so. As Plevs does box, thinks he has the gap to Diano in P6. As RL9 picks up a speeding penalty, or a drive-through penalty, sorry, for speeding under the safety car. Diano also dives into the pits. Ned Hammer stays out. So can Plevs maintain track position here, or will he be overtaken by Ned Hammer? I think, yeah, he will lose a place to Ned Hammer, so not ideal. And he will lose another place to RL9, but he still has to serve his drive-through. Of course he can't do that under safety car conditions. But Plevs' decision to go for fresh mediums has cost him 2 spots. Diano down to 8th. And Metz, I think, stays in 9th, as he has had quite a big gap to James in P10. So top 6 on slightly older tires now, as all the cars behind have boxed for newer intermediates. As Toddy has picked up a 5-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane. boxing again. Not sure why, as he made a pit stop just one lap before, but interesting to say the least, and doing so has gained him another 5 seconds, so not the best of races for the McLaren driver. As he is one of few drivers in URL that have scored points in every race he participated in. He also holds the record for most consecutive finishes since the very start of URL in Season 1, back in October. He has finished every race he started and also scored points in every race he finished. So being down in 12th place, not looking too good right now. So let's see if he can keep up that point scoring record here. Stoddy is still quite some way back from the rest of the pack, so I'm not sure if the safety car will be in at the end of this lap or if it will be the next lap. Of course, Stoddy can go flat out or as quick as he wants to catch up to the safety car queue. So I think the safety car will be out for one more lap. Yeah, lights stay on. So just allowing Cobalt and Toddy to catch up to the back of the pack. So we'll have a 6-lap sprint race towards the end, where we'll have to keep a close eye on the battle for the lead, of course, but also drivers like Plebs, who showed a lot of pace and are now on fresher intermediates. And it will be interesting to see if he can make his way through the field. Of course, RL9 will have to serve his drive-through in the 3 laps after the safety car comes in, so that won't help his race at all, and he will probably not be scoring points unless something happens to some more drivers. But yeah, not ideal for him picking up a drive-through penalty so late in the race after the entire field has been bunched up. In terms of penalties, Joseph, Diano and Mats have 3 seconds worth of penalties. Toddy, of course, picked up that 5-second penalty after his second stop under this safety car, and Cobalt has 14 seconds worth of penalties. That's, I think, 9 from track limits and 5 either for speeding in the pit lane or contact under the safety car. So most out of any driver so far, Cobalt. So Toddy still has a chance to actually score some points. If he stays within 9 seconds of Cobalt, he'll gain that place, and of course with the drive-through of RL9 he'll get another place, so that would be P10. But yeah, all drivers now in the queue behind the safety car, so I think we'll be going at the end of this lap. lights go out even earlier than last time, I think. Already before turn 10. But the safety car is in this lap. As Toddy and Cobalt exchanged positions briefly. Not sure what happened there, but should be all fine. As Cram not going yet. Of course he'll be hoping for a safety car restart like last time, and he is already gone once again before the penultimate corner. Now Joseph has been able to stick with him a little bit better than last time. And we are racing once again. 6 laps to go in this French Grand Prix. This is green flag racing all around again. Ooh, Plebs gets a bit wayward out of turn 2. Might give Diano an opportunity. As Toddy has slightly messed up his restart and is already 7 seconds behind Cobalt and picks up a 3-second time penalty as well. But Cramp once again nailing the restart. 1 second ahead of Joseph. The rest, everyone maintaining their positions, with RL9 now forming a bit of a train behind him. I think it will be wise for him to serve the drive-through as soon as possible. As Plebs now really being held up by the Alfa Romeo. As RL9 gets a bit wayward, that will give an opportunity to Plebs to go around the outside of turn 11. And he is passed even before the end of the corner. Great move by the Red Bull driver. Up into 6th now. Now I have to push on hard to catch up back to the top 5. And RL9 is struggling a bit now and has Diano for company. And he does box to serve his drive-through. Sad for him as he was on for some good points, but yeah, just miscalculated his delta under the safety car and now has to serve a drive-through, and he will drop down to last place. I have a yellow flag in sector 1, and it's Toddy making a mistake at the exit of turn 2 and with a virtual safety car. Oh, he lost his front wing. So he must have made a bigger mistake than I thought. And Toddy Rumble will have to box, and I don't think he'll be scoring any points today. For the first time in his career here in URL, Toddy Rumble will finish a race without scoring points, and he is also now picking up a drive-through penalty as well after going too quick under the virtual safety car. So a race to forget for the McLaren driver, as it will be crucial to time the virtual safety car ending as good as possible, as Cramp seemingly pulling out a bit of a gap at the end of it. As we go back to green flag racing, Diano picks up a 3-second time penalty, the second of the race. So that would put him behind both Mets and James. So McLaren had a good start to the season in the first 3 races, scoring good points with both cars. Now it doesn't look like it will end in a good way this time round. Just 4 laps to go. So Cramp got a good VSC restart and now is 1.3 seconds ahead of Joseph, who of course also still has that 3-second time penalty. So Cramp looks like to have it all under control, and he looks like he's on his way to his 3rd win in 4 races. Don't know what's going on here, but let's not go on board with him for now. And so we have another virtual safety car. Don't know exactly what for. Doesn't seem like anyone has spun or made a mistake, but Toddy now in the pits. So a bit of late chaos here at Paul Car. Once again, Cramp pulling out a gap around turn 10, turn 11. Of course, had a 1.3 second gap when this VSC got called out. So let's see what the gap will be at the end. Joseph now sticking a bit closer as Cobalt picks up a drive-through penalty, not timing the safety car restart well. So another driver picking up a drive-through penalty because of speeding under a this time virtual safety car, and that's his last hopes of points gone, as he will drop behind RL9, who, so despite his drive-through, will still end up in P10. Cobalt immediately serves his drive-through as Toddy decides to box and end his 15 consecutive finishing streak, as he will not make it to the end of this French Grand Prix. He retires. It will just leave us with 11 cars on track at the moment, with Cobalt being the last of them, just coming out of the pits after serving his drive-through. So Cramp still in the lead, gap down to 9/10 now, with Carson still behind Weirdo. Plebs now also putting on the pressure on Ned Hammer. Does have quite some more ERS than Ned Hammer. Plebs does. So he'll be hoping to make it back to P5. That's of course the minimum he would hope to be able to do. But the gap to Carson in front is not that big. Ned Hammer seemingly keeping up with the Williams in P4, as he does make a little bit of a mistake coming out of turn 13. Splash is now right on the back. Will he go for it in the final corner? No. Picks a wider line and goes for the better exit. As Joseph Lyden does put in a fast level race, and now only 5/10 behind Euroc Cramp. And Plebs does make the move down into turn 1, already in front before the corner, and Plebs is back up into 5th. And now he picks up another 3-second time penalty, Joseph, and that will hurt him quite a bit, as he would be now even behind Plebs. So that second 3-second time penalty will bump him down to 5th. So after starting on pole and getting that pole quite dominantly with 7/10 in front of second place Cramp, it shows once again that qualifying pace isn't the same as race pace and race consistency. Picking up 2 3-second time penalties while the other guys in the top 5 did not have any penalties, and it will hurt him with this late safety car. So yeah, unfortunate of course, but it is what it is. And yeah, with just a bit more than 1 lap to go, I think Cramp can relax a little bit now, as he has most certainly got this win covered. Just doesn't have to make any mistakes, shouldn't make any mistakes, and then he should be on for his 3rd win of the season and extend his championship lead. Plebs takes away the fastest lap from Joseph as well, 140.5. as we're on the final lap right now. Diana will have to push a bit as he's still 8/10 on the wrong side of the timing to compared to Mets in P8, and does look like he will be finishing in P9. So only 2 points for McLaren today, with Toddy not making it to the end of the race. Call of Redemption picks up another 3-second time penalty, already down in last place, and by far the most penalties out of any driver today. But for Cramp, it's by the looks of it, it's been quite an easy race. Got the lead at the start of the race and didn't give it away after that, but he's had to cope with a lot of things thrown at him. 2 safety cars, 2 VSCs. Immense pressure all race from Joseph, but he has coped brilliantly as he comes through the final corner. As Plebs has overtaken Carson at the final corner, but Eurocramp crosses the line to win the French Grand Prix. Joseph finishes second on the road, but will drop down to P5 as Plebs overtakes Carson at the last corner to get P3 after qualifying down in P10. What a comeback drive from him. At the absolute last opportunity, he grabs that last podium position. Caught Carson napping, and Plebs gets P3. What an end. And Joseph down to P5 after those 6 seconds time penalties. Nat Hammer, after starting last, finishes 6th. Great race from him. So here is your race winner, Eurocramp, for the third time this season. He is on the top step of the podium, accompanied by Weirdo in P2 and Plebs in P3. Plebs also picks up the fastest lap of the race, 16 points for the Red Bull driver, but still Cramp extends his championship lead to, I think, 29 points over Plebs. Carson in P4, Joseph in P5, Nat Hammer finishes 6th. James on his debut after making 3 pit stops finishes P7, Mets P8, Diano P9, RL9 P10, and Cobalt the last of the finishers, with Toddy, Jungleman, Humble Hippo and BJ not making it to the end of the race. So yeah, that's it for today. Thank you everyone who has tuned in to watch today, and I hope to see you all back next week as we will travel to the Styrian Mountains in Austria for round number 5. Let's see who can come out on top then. But for now, thanks all for watching and see you next week.